I was learning everything from scratch, and that was almost, I would say, the superpower that I had. To just stay naive as long as possible, because then every challenge that comes up, you kind of tackle it one at a time versus being aware of like how tall this mountain is you're gonna have to climb.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for being on the podcast, Bunim.
Thanks for having me, man.
I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so today's guest, I wrote out a little intro for you, for the audience.
Sure, I'll be flattered.
Today's guest is a true innovator in the sharing economy. Bunim Laskin is the founder of Swimply, the platform often called Airbnb for pools. The idea started when Bunim was 20 years old. He noticed his neighbor's pool wasn't getting much use. So he offered to help cover the maintenance costs in exchange for access. That simple conversation sparked what would eventually become a venture-backed company now operating across the USA, Canada, and Australia. Bunim is also the eldest of 12 siblings. Wow. And his journey from a close-knit family in Lakewood, New Jersey, to building a nationally recognized brand is nothing short of inspiring. He's raised tens of millions in funding, scaled Swimply to thousands of listings, over 150 cities, and has been featured in Shark Tank, Forbes, and MSNBC. His story is a blend of hustle, vision, and heart, and I'm excited to unpack his story with you all. Let's begin. Thanks for being on the podcast, man.
Let's do it.
How was that introduction?
It was nice. I expected to be flattered, so job done.
Yeah, well, thanks for being on Spear Podcast.
Yeah, pleasure's mine.
So where did it all start for you, man? Like, the first question I have is, have you always been very entrepreneurial?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I always, money was never really top of mind growing up, I would say. Came from like the oldest of 12. So I had a lot of younger siblings very early on, and I think life was just pretty fun and chaotic. Not really much of a focus on like what I'll become or what I'll do. I also grew up in a really religious home. So my family is ultra-Orthodox. And so in there, the path for life is ultimately like either become a rabbi or like do the classic Orthodox jobs, which is like going into real estate or a little bit more conventional, sort of non-conventional things. So it would be real estate or nursing homes. Entrepreneurship specifically, and definitely tech, was not something talked about at all growing up whatsoever. So it was kind of something that I just discovered along the way when I just I had a desire to solve things. And when you grow up as the oldest of 12, you're constantly being tasked with solving things. Parents are inundated, you're kind of dividing and conquering. So for me, I think just when I just wanted to solve a lot of things, and as I grew up and moved out of the house and I noticed other problems there, it turned out that you can solve problems and also create some real financial value at the same time. So I think it was more of like, I always knew I was going to be like solving problems a lot. And I think that just turned into entrepreneurship as you leave your house and begin your life.
What a cool upbringing, like to have 12 siblings.
Dude, it's much worse than that because it's not just 12 siblings.
Well, what's the age? What's the age difference?
It's 9 sisters.
Oh wow,
so it's like
that's a lot of women.
So it's not just 12. You're also outnumbered.
Yeah, I'm outnumbered, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
Family trip. What's your ratio?
So I have 3 younger sisters. I'm the oldest of 4, but 3 younger sisters.
No sympathy whatsoever. I am dealing with literally 3 times that, and 2 younger brothers who grew up amidst 9 younger sisters. So it's you kind of lose all the debates as far as what the family trip should be.
Yeah.
And the bathrooms we're definitely going with Hello Kitty versus Spider-Man. So yeah, it was very much a democracy. I know we were outnumbered very early on, but it was definitely a really cool upbringing because I think you just get your independence much faster. Right?
Yeah.
Most 8-year-olds are considered like a baby in the family. By the time I was 8, I was helping people get my younger siblings to bed, waking them up for school, brushing their teeth. So you just get much more responsibility much faster.
Yeah.
So I think it does help. You kind of like accelerate your appetite for responsibility and accountability.
Did mom and dad always want to have a lot of kids?
My dad's one of 13, my mom's one of 9.
Wow.
So I think so. And I think my mother and my grandmother, like her mother-in-law, were a little competitive. So I think she's actually disappointed because I think she was one away from at least a tie. So.
Yeah. So how old's the youngest?
Right now, she was 20. I was 20 when she was born.
Okay, got it. So that's the gap between the kids.
She's 8 and I'm 28. So yeah.
Wow. Gosh, I imagine like family reunions are just the best. Hectic, but the best.
Oh, they're crazy. Yeah. I mean, we try to all get together at least like once or twice a year, and they're pretty. And my 2 younger sisters are married now, so there's 2 other men. So we're starting to get some backup here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really.
So enjoyable. You didn't want to go into the typical route of becoming a rabbi or going into real estate or finance. You just decided to kind of make your own path.
Yeah, I mean, like I would say the first time like I created anything fun.
Yeah, what was the
I've
first
made
thing
money,
you created?
The first thing I ever did was like I mean, I was like, I think I was in 6th grade when I got into video games, and my school did not allow you to have video games. It was a really religious school, and so they didn't allow they didn't even allow you to own video games at home, and so they were super strict about it. And so I decided that I was gonna like buy up every video game I can afford. Bought like a PSP at the time, and a Game Boy DS, and I would like started a black market for like renting these video games for me. So I would give you like the PSP for like $10, and then every video game was an extra $2 a night, and you'd leave them in a certain locker, and I would pick them up from the locker. And so it was like my first, I think like all of us wanted to play video games. I was the only one who kind of was able to get my hands on it without my parents being too on top, and then just ran this entire black market in the school until one of the kids who rented it, his parents found him with it, and he's like, "How on earth did you just get these devices?" And the whole operation fell apart. And
did you get
suspended?
Or?
I was in a ton of trouble. I was out of school for like 2 weeks. My parents lost their mind of like, how did I pull this whole thing off? Because I ran it for like 1.5 years, and I think I made like $5,000 off it, just like in 6th through 7th grade. So that was like the first time I think I was the first thing I got into. But
you ran like a black market, like video game, like little business on the side.
Yeah, in the beginning I would even just
that is so funny.
You didn't even have to rent it overnight. You could rent it during recess and just find a place to hide it. And it was like a whole it was fun until
So it's always been in your DNA.
Kind of,
yeah.
Yes, but in the beginning, I didn't even look at it like a business. I was like, this is like a problem everyone has. Like, let me solve it. And then I realized I can charge for it, like after the fact. Like I was gonna do this, and I was like, wait, I could charge for this too, and like I could solve this problem, and I can charge for it. So like, okay, that's gonna also make it. Initially, even the thought of charging it is like, how am I gonna even create I need a litmus test of like, I'll just be inundated. I'll never have enough. So charging was like a limit. Like I'll narrow down the amount to people asking me to borrow it. And so that's kind of how, that's what I mean. It was like, it always started with like trying to solve this like thing, because all of us were like, oh, we're dying to play this, dying to play that. And like the school, everyone was so nervous about their school and their parents. And so like, I think, and I only realized I could charge it after I was already like, came up with the solution. So I think that's when the best ideas happen. When there's a real problem that you're into, you get like really into solving it. And then you're like, oh, I can charge after the fact.
Definitely.
And
I mean, that's literally what you did with Swimply.
Yeah, I think, ironically, like, Swimply, same thing. Probably, I don't know why. For some reason, every solution I come up with, I also get in trouble for.
So you got in trouble for that one too?
Well, it was Swimply. It was. I mean, it's just a very sharing economy. You're operating in the gray area. A lot of people are trying to figure out, like, what are the pros and cons of this new human behavior? If you ask me, there's only pros, but it's a brand new behavior. But yeah, it's I think I like to play in the gray area.
Yeah, for sure. Well, walk us through how it all started, right? Like, I kind of read it a little bit, and I did some of my own research on how the company came to be, but I think it's a really cool story. How you saw a problem, and you were like, all right, I'm going to try to solve this, just like you did with video games when you were a little kid.
Yeah, happy to get into it. So, I mean, I thought of the idea in 2018 when my younger sister was born, and I was studying abroad at the time. I was in Israel, actually, and I was going to travel, but with the new sister on board, my mom demanded that I came home and spend summer with the family to help out with the kids. And so me and my younger sister were both abroad. We both traveled back as backup to help with the newborn with the other siblings. And all 12 of us were kind of just stuck in this, with our parents, so 14 of us were stuck in this like 3-bedroom house in New Jersey. And it was intense, you can imagine. And our
3-bedroom house?
3-bedroom house.
With
14
kids?
of us, yeah.
14 of, with mom and dad.
With mom and dad. So it's
wow.
like, yeah, so it was pretty crazy. And nothing we weren't super used to, but now with a newborn baby, it was like particularly intense.
Wow, that's such a cool story. That's
and so
that's a full household.
It's dude, it's like Shameless on steroids to some extent. But like we ultimately just nobody went to camp. It wasn't something my family could afford. So all of us were home throughout the summer. Our neighbor builds a pool, which is really exciting. She builds it for her grandkids so they can visit. And when I'm like, hey, can my family use it? She rejected us. That was a big heartbreak. And her big reason for, which made sense, was really reasonable actually. She's like, if I let you use it once, you'll like move into my backyard. And like all 12 of you next door, like there's not gonna be a day you're not gonna be there. But that pool was just sitting there empty because her grandkids barely visited. And I overheard her talking to my mom about how much the pool was costing her. And so I'm like, hey, what if we helped you with expenses in exchange? And she was like, oh, that would be delightful. And my mom just like right there, like awkward in this. And she's like, yeah, I guess that sounds like a really good idea. And then so my family started using her pool. And then within 2 weeks, the rest of the block started paying her to use her pool. And I still had no idea how we're going to come up with our share. And so we ultimately I just decided I'll be a pool pimp for the summer. I don't know if that's okay to say, but like I was
Totally fine.
went on Google Earth, found 80 doors to knock on. Knocked in these doors, got 4 of them to agree to let me rent out their backyards.
Oh, so you're just going door to door.
Door to door.
Knocking
76 rejections,
What
door
was
slams.
out of curiosity? What was your pitch?
I mean, hey, I'm willing to bet no one's in your pool right now.
You're
And
correct.
they all thought, wait, are you trying to come into my pool? I'm like, oh, no, much worse. much worse. I actually want you to like let me rent them out to everyone else and you'll charge them. And I'll just take a commission in exchange.
And did they give you pushback? Because the first thing I think about is liability.
I mean, most of them just thought it was insane. Like I wouldn't say even got there with most people. And obviously this is back in 2018, and you would have thought that like some of their sharing economies would have made people more open-minded to this, but not maybe the pool owners. Right? It wasn't a bunch of college kids trying to make rent or something like that. It was people with a home and a pool, and so a lot of people were just flat out thought it was insane. Liability, we almost never got there. And it ended up being like a more mature problem that we solved later on. But the 4 that agreed didn't even really agree. They agreed that like they were open-minded, that if somebody wanted to rent their pool, I can call them at that time and convince them then. And so I got 4 people that were like, okay, open-minded to renting out their pools. And then I put flyers around town, and then with my phone number, and you'd call me. I'd call the owners. There was no website, obviously I had no time. So you just call me, call the owners one by one, call you back. And then if I found you a pool, I would call you back with good news, charge you over Square on my phone, and then deliver checks in person biweekly.
What were you charging in the early days?
It was up to the owners, and they ranged on average they were like $30 an hour all the way to like $60 an hour.
And then what was your profit on top of that?
I took 15%.
15%. So if they're going to spend
$100, I make $15. But I was also charging the guest $10
per guest.
No, for the reservation overall. Sorry, I was charging them 10%. So if if the owner was charging $100 for 2 hours, I would upsell $110, and then I would take. So I ended up taking around 25%.
Got it.
And so I ended up doing around like $40,000 in bookings this way.
No way.
And
over the course of
like this was like late June to the end of August. And so
wow,
that's
a few
months. 10 week thing, and then it was made like $40,000 in bookings, took home like 10 grand, and I thought it was insane. Like I've never seen anything like that. And
this is in 2018.
This is 2018, and so I of the 76, fun fact, that said no, 20 ended up calling me back saying, hey, can we try it out now? Because it was one of those things that just needed to start happening. Nobody wanted to be a lab rat.
And this is all in New Jersey, Lakewood.
This is all in Lakewood,
from.
New Jersey, where I'm from. And so we'll get to like 40 hosts overall. 20 of those new ones come from like a list that originally slammed the door on me. So I'm like, hey, mines can be changed as long as like people get used to this. And it went really viral hyper locally, because when you book a Swimply, you tell your friends about it. You're not like in the back of an Uber, or you're gonna post it on social media, you're gonna tell your friends about it. And so my phone number was blowing up all day. And so it gave me enough conviction, both between like talking to these guests every single day, figuring out what questions they wanted to know about the pool so I can streamline this over time, and then also delivering the checks in person and the owners being like just thrilled seeing me. I'm like, this is a product. This is definitely something really good. So I decided not to go back to school.
To Israel.
To Israel. Summer ended. Decided to learn about starting a company and what that entails. Learned what investors were, what angels were. Didn't really have any sense of what business was. Again, my education up until this point is like high school, but I didn't really graduate. I got kicked out like a week before graduation.
No way.
Yeah, and then and even the education I had in high school was mainly like Talmudic education. So I was learning everything from scratch, and that was almost, I would say, the superpower that I had, is that I was so naive. And it's like, and that's actually one of the advices I give the most, is like just stay naive as long as possible. Because then every challenge that comes up, you kind of tackle it one at a time, versus being aware of like how tall this mountain is you're gonna have to climb. I had no idea how tall it is, so I'm like, hey, this is a fun climb. Let's just keep climbing. And so, learned.
I love that, by the way. Stay naive.
Stay naive. Kind of like just like learn as much as you need to do to get to the next step, don't learn about what it's gonna take between now and like
Yeah.
an exit. I feel like
Because you really have no idea when you're starting a company, right? You have this like vision, you're trying to solve a problem, but like there's so much that happens along the way.
there's a lot of little miracles that need to like go well. And I think when people contemplate it too much, the people that know too much, like MBAs, I think start the businesses the least actually. And they become consultants and help and work in companies, but the more you know, the more overwhelming starting a company is, and I think a lot of people give up like right away. Like the moment that initial high fades.
Well, to my point earlier, when you brought this up to me, the first thing I thought about for these early adopters was like, well, if someone falls and like breaks their neck or drowns, it's like I'm on the hook for this. Like there's liability, you know. And like if you don't think to ask that question or you don't think about that, like
So
you're probably more willing to say, yeah, I'll let you come in and swim in my pool.
Well, for us, I mean, really once the moment we were raising capital, that became like the core problem.
Got it. And so going kind of back to the story, right? Like you had the summer that was super successful. You realized you had something.
Yeah.
You profited $10,000, which was more than you probably
ever seen. Yeah,
ever seen. Which is congrats. It's amazing. At what point were you like, okay, this is very viable. Like I need to go out into the marketplace and start raising?
I mean, it was almost immediately. I would say it was like the moment the calls started coming in, and people would sometimes wait like 45 minutes for me to find a pool for them, and then get no photos, get barely any details, and just started doing it anyways. The user experience being that terrible, and with a success rate of like maybe 50%. So people knew they can call me, wait an hour, and just to hear bad news, and people were still using it this much. I was like, if I can just solve this and streamline this can be quite phenomenal. And that's like the benefit, I think, of like the fact that I spoke to every single user early days, and I directly spoke with every single host because I was literally just a middleman. You would both call me, and so I think that it was quite immediate. Like I decided not to go back, which was a big deal. Where I'm from, you have to go at least for 3 years, and then decide if you can become a rabbi or like learn more.
Oh, so you were considering going down that path?
Not really. I always knew it was never going to happen. But for my parents, it was a bigger deal that like, oh, you're not going back to Israel. Like you're going to start a company for renting pools out. I thought this was supposed to be like a fun little summer project. Like you're gonna make your whole life around this. So it was a little controversial. But once we went out to raise that first round, and like I kind of knew what a pitch deck was and put that presentation together, I just started pitching everybody I can possibly think of.
So what was the strategy, right? Like you're coming from New Jersey. I don't know if you have a lot of like friends or know a lot of people that know investors. Like how did you go about that?
Yeah, I just started harassing everybody I knew that was like in real estate. A lot of the early investors were not tech investors. This was like their first tech investment ever. Because for my community, like again, it's not a prevalent sort of pathway that people take. And that was like, and most people thought it was insane, but I'm like, dude, look what I did. I did it with my phone. So I had the advantage of like, I was working before I was at that company. I just did 40,000 bookings with just a cell phone and some flyers.
Yeah, you almost had a little bit of a proof of concept.
Correct. So that's kind of like, I ended up pitching like around 90 people, right? Before I got my first yes. But I was already...
Wait, you pitched 90 people before you got your first yes?
Yeah. But if you think about it, I was already kind of used to it because I already had 76 doors that slammed in my face. So I already like built that like tolerance for getting rejected, and I just keep going. And so...
where does that come from for you? Like that grit, right? Like there's something there, like every entrepreneur that we have on here, it's like they have this like fire, this like passion, right? Where they have so much like grit, where they're just like, they get no, and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna keep pushing. Like for you, where does that come from? Yeah,
so actually, I think it's a little bit the other way around. I think everybody has passion and grit, and everyone can get really passionate about something. I think what happens, people get their first no, and then that puts a lot of rain on their fire, right? And I think everyone is passionate. I think everyone's got grit, but like it's really the tolerance for getting rejected, and being able to feel lonely in the moment, right? And being okay feeling crazy. So I think entrepreneurs are just or like people that keep going. I think I'm just okay being really uncomfortable, right? And so I'm okay like getting a bunch of no's and stuff like that. And then I'm also borderline delusional in the sense where like I think that like I could get 40 no's and still be convinced that there is a yes out there.
I love that.
So like
That's
I'm like
awesome.
Optimistically delusional sometimes, and then and then I just don't mind being uncomfortable. So I think the mix of those two, like if you don't mind being uncomfortable, and you're like really freaking confident about what you're building to the point that it doesn't matter how many no's you get, then the passion just stays, right? It doesn't. I don't think you develop a passion, and that's what it overcomes being uncomfortable, and it overcomes, all the no's. I think people have that passion, and you got to keep that passion going through the no's, and I think the right mentality, and then the right level of confidence, and I think everybody needs a certain level of being like a little bit delusional when you're starting a company. You have to be a little bit crazy because you have to ask yourself, why has no one done this until now? Why are you the first? Why you? You have to be like a narcissist to some extent. And then you have to, and that's why a lot of entrepreneurs, I think a lot of their journey is character more than anything else. Because to start a company, you have to have been a version of something that no one else is. And that probably comes with a lot of rough edges. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs have like a lot of character development that they end up needing to go through. And I think that ends up being more of a focus for them. To leverage their superpower versus becoming like assholes when they reach when they end up being right.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, what I think I'm hearing you say is like you had a lot of self-belief.
I was very confident. I was very I was on those phone calls. They weren't on those phone calls. I was calling, hey, I'm with my 3 kids. Can you hook us up with a pool? It would make our day. Call an owner, be like, hey, I have somebody with 3 kids. They're willing to pay you $100, and they're like, hell yeah. And call them back, say, I got you a pool, and they're celebrating. I was on that call. You weren't on that call. If you were on that call, you would know what I know. But you don't know what I know, so I'm totally okay that you're saying no right now. Like I was genuinely like feel like borderline like almost like you just missed this opportunity. Like that really sucks that you couldn't get there. I was that level of Delulu.
Yeah, but also you saw firsthand how this is like making people's day.
Correct.
Like so much joy that's coming from experiencing going into a pool with your friends and family and having a really like fun day.
Correct. Yeah, I think being in there, seeing what it was like, I was probably just not really good at like presenting what I just witnessed with my own eye. But eventually, after 90 no's, I got a yes
from the investor.
From an investor, first tech investment he's ever made. But he was in resorts. And he had a lot of resorts that he was so underutilized, and he's like, "This is a resort, and it's so underutilized. The pool. Imagine like someone's backyard pool. It must be super underutilized." And so he just kind of like believed in me, gave me like a $250,000 check. That's once you get a yes, the yeses come. So no matter how many no's you get, you just need like one yes.
That's so true.
And then once you get that yes, got a couple other yeses, raised $1 million, launched the names, got the name Swimply off somebody who it was taken, but I was able to get somebody to sell it to me for like $200.
Really?
Yeah. They initially, when I reached out to them through email, they wanted $200,000 for the name, and I'm like, oh, can we talk about this? And I'm like, what's your vision for it? And he's like, oh, I want to do like some swimming lesson website, and some of that. I'm like, how about like I'm like, how long have you owned this? He's like 10 years. I'm like, how about this? Give me the name. When we do a blog, because that was the whole thing. She wanted to write about safety. Like he'll be able to. I'll give them that dream. Like I'll create the whole infrastructure. You'll be the author and make sure that everyone has safety and some of that. So he ended up just giving it to me for $200, and he like was used our platform to also have like a safety blog.
Oh, cool.
That he writes for. So that worked out from God. Got the name because I thought the name was. I wanted a name that was relevant, obviously swimming, but I also wanted it to be our own ward, essentially, because there's like a couple of other competing names like poolside but I didn't want it to be a mixture of two words. I wanted it to be something that I realized this would be the first time in history that people were behaving this way, and I wanted a word that represented the behavior, not just a company. Yeah. Kind of like taking an Uber or booking an Airbnb. I very much had in mind that people would say, "Let's book a Swimply."
Yeah. It's a cool name. It's easy to remember too. It was, and it's like exactly in line with what we're doing.
Everybody hated it in the beginning.
Oh, really?
Everybody, because it was hard to say. Swimply with the P. People wanted to be Swimly.
I mean, originally I think I was about ready to say Swimly, but then Swimply. Yeah.
Yeah. People hated it. It was. I think the first time we were in the news, the person said it wrong, and they're like, "Aha, it was the wrong." But I cannot envision a different name for the. Like it would have got. It had exactly everything that I wanted it to have, and so launched Swimply in 2019. Call up those 40 hosts. Be like, "Hey, I'm launching a website right now. I just want to put all your things." We launched with 40 pools, and that was kind of the beginning of Swimply. And we launched with 40, and now we're like at 15,000 in the United States, Australia, and Canada. We onboard like around 500 new spots a week at this point.
Yeah, you guys are crushing it. I remember back, like, I started hearing about you guys, I want to say like 2020, right? Like COVID happened and everyone's just all of a sudden out of nowhere, I started like seeing you guys like everywhere. Yeah. But before we dive into that, like what I think you said something that like really kind of stuck out to me. And I think that's like so cool the way that your brain works, in that someone had your website, right? And you had like, all right, I'm going to reach out to this guy and I'm going to figure out what he wants with the website. And then you were able to kind of create like synergies with him, right? Like, what do you need? What do I want? And then kind of like come to like a consensus of like, I'm going to create something that works for you too. And I think that's like really cool. It's another way of you like problem solving, like not giving up. some people would just be like, I'm not gonna pay this guy $200,000 and then just like move on. But you're like, no, like I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna figure out what his goals are, and then I'm gonna have them align with our goals.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of necessary sometimes.
It's definitely necessary.
Divide, yeah.
I think that's to a certain degree the secret of negotiating, right?
Yeah.
It's not just one-sided. I think when you go to a negotiation and you're just like, I got to have it my way, right? Like it's all give and take, right? And the willingness to like, hey, this is where I am and this is where you are, and let's figure out like what's most important to you, what's most important to me, and then kind of like give and take.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you did, right? Like with that website, I'm sure like every step along the way, like that's what you've been doing.
Yes, I would say so. I think for owners and for guests, I think that also figuring out exactly where the friction is constantly, and I think, and then just being able to address it really directly, often produces like really good solutions that you just don't think about.
Yeah,
on face value.
Definitely
So,
having conversations with people too.
Yeah,
so important. Yeah. So going back, so I was reading, and one of the things I wanted to bring up was you were on Shark Tank.
Yes.
What was that experience like for you?
It was fun. It was a ton of fun. So
were you nervous?
We weren't really nervous. I would say we raised all the money beforehand. So we raised $1 million.
Okay.
It's actually perfect timing as far as the next part of the story goes. But like, we raised $1 million. We launched Swimply in 2019.
Okay.
We immediately hit the press. Like the news immediately picks up on us, and that's been our game since then. Like just getting press to grow the business.
Do you have a strategy with that?
It's happened by mistake. I mean, it happened. Our first press was bad press. Because people heard about Swimply and they assumed that, and they made it to the news. I think it was like CNBC was the first person to cover us. It crashed the website, obviously, and all they were saying was like they assumed that Swimply was like for college kids and parties and it's gonna like disturb. At this point, 100% of our bookings are families, like my family taking their kids to a pool, and so, but that's not how it was being portrayed. People heard Airbnb for pools and assumed the worst case scenario. But so they're just pretty much crapping on the idea for like 3 minutes on TV. But like we take off from that point on. We go from like 40 pools to 200 pools, and having people reach out to us for comment, and that was all. Even though they were not saying anything good, it was only good for the business, and that's kind of where we really took home the all press is good press, at least at that size. And Shark Tank finds out about it, I guess, and then they reach out because they reached out to us.
Really?
Yeah, and then they ask us to apply. We apply. They pretty much reach out to you to submit a video, essentially, like because for them, all they I think really care about is like good TV, and so they want to make sure you'll be able to talk to them and have a good back and forth with the sharks, so they have good content. And so we just went through the process, flew out to LA, and then filmed, got our asses kicked. I also went on there with like, again, great. You could even see it in the video there. Like my wife just loves to watch it to roast me, but like I was like operating in like a whole different like I think Mark said it best. Like my vision and my reality were like in two different places at the time, which was fun to do. But we already raised the money, so I didn't really care. And the whole goal was to make the TV because they don't air everybody. And the producers were very clear, like, hey, if it's not good TV, it just won't air. And that was like what we wanted. We wanted the free commercial. And so we wanted our thing to be memorable. So we built a pool on set. We hired this guy actually. His name is Jesse Hyman, I think. And he was America's most famous extra. So if you go on YouTube, go search like America's most famous extra. This man's been like every movie from like Spider-Man to Entourage. He's like this like really cute chubby dude, just like always in the background. And I'm like, one of the interns was like, let's bring that guy on the set. So we literally reached out to his agent and brought him on. We just wanted to do everything we can.
So you brought him on and he's like in the pool as
he's like
pitching?
in the pool, yeah. He's in the pool as we're pitching.
I think that's so important though. Like that's just like a unique thing, right? Like it's just like another thing that makes you stand out. Like who's doing that? Not only do you have a pool, but you got like an extra in there that's like swimming around.
Exactly. And then we knew he was going to be like, the sharks were going to go at him. So I was going to create good content.
Smart.
And we also knew that we were likely not going to get a deal because at that point we raised $1 million at like a $6 million valuation, and our revenue at that point was like $200,000. And so I knew very clear that the producers were like, the sharks are not going to go for this kind of valuation. We're like, we can't go any lower because we already raised money at this valuation. So they're like, okay, it's your call, but you're not going to get a deal. And you may get a deal, you never know. But that's ultimately, so we knew that we're less likely to air if it's not going to go. It's going to go poorly. So we needed an insurance plan in case it went poorly, to ensure it's at least fun enough to air. And so that happened. We went on, we aired, we did not get a deal. but it airs on March 13th, 2020. Okay.
Wow.
Now, if you know anything about, if you remember COVID,
Yeah.
it kicked in, the lockdowns kicked in March 13th, 2020. And so that was an insane period because we were like, okay, when this episode airs, we're going to blow up. We're going to go, we went from 40K in 2018 to 200K in 2019. That's going to be we're going to at least 3-4X.
Another God thing, by the way.
What was that?
Another God thing.
What do you mean?
As in, like, you went on Shark Tank, it aired right as COVID's happening, right?
But it was more like a man plans, God laughs sort of moment because it seemed terrible. And it was because it airs. And I'm on Shark Tank telling people to go try their friends' pools out. And the CDC comes out that day and says, pretty much don't interact with anybody at all, right? And so revenue goes to zero. Even though we air and like nothing, obviously, because we're all locked up. And it was like we were 5 people at the company, like pretty much 3 quit. And you're like, okay, this was like our Hail Mary to like really get some serious growth. And like this, God clearly doesn't want Swimply. If like we finally get this thing and it airs during the day a global pandemic begins. Like, so actually 3 people left. And then we just waited it out because we all were in the lockdown. But eventually it ended up being an amazing opportunity because a month and a half, 2 months later, people needed to get out of the house. Perfect timing around when summer was starting. CDC says pools are clear to swim in and clears out the virus. And so it's safe to swim in other people's pools. Again, flawless coordination. And we just take the fuck off. We just blow up. And then, we ended up growing like 4,000% that year. And then those 3 tried to come back and we're like, dude, I don't need you here anymore. Like the moment it got hard, you bounced. And so I was able to maintain more stability in the company, ride it out. Because throughout those 2 months, even though there was no bookings, pool owners were putting their pools on there because people also needed an additional way to make revenue.
Yeah.
During that time. And people were having trouble making ends meet. And so a lot of people were coming on. So we went from like 200 hosts to like 800 hosts during this period, but no bookings. But now once the summer was here, the CDC, and people just needing to get out, those 800 hosts were ready to go. And we kind of just took off from there. But that was an insane experience. Both Shark Tank was just a ton of fun going there, like doing the whole spiel with them. But then even that whole era where it like aired, and I honestly laughed out loud when it aired in that Friday afternoon. It was like a lockdown. I'm like, oh, this is so, like, who else would this happen to? I thought it was just hilarious, but it just turned out to be amazing. And I couldn't have obviously planned that. So that worked out. And then when COVID ended, we were obviously much larger, and it didn't stop. We just kept on going, and we brought in a lot of new use cases when COVID ended. So it was really just families and people swimming for health. And when COVID ended, it was also parties and events, photo shoots, music videos. So the business just continued to grow once all these new use cases were out there as well. So it worked out.
So you raised $1 million, then went on Shark Tank. There was like COVID, a down period of like, I think you might have mentioned like 6 to 8 months.
No, it was gone for like just like 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
And then it started picking back up.
Yeah.
And then you did another raise. What happened after that?
Yeah, so we blow up around summer of 2020. And then we started getting reached out to by a lot of VCs. We ended up taking a $10 million term sheet January of 2021. And this is also when like the world's crazy when it comes to venture. 2021 was like a wild year.
Yeah, it was a wild year.
And so like 6 months later, we're approached by VCs again. And we're like, dude, we just raised. We're good. It was like, dude, we'll give you an offer you can't refuse. And so we raised another, essentially $40 million.
Wow.
And so we ended up raising like $50 million on that year. And we kind of, at this point, the company's profitable. Just kind of reinvests, obviously, and just growing really organically and really efficiently. And so we haven't raised, really. We're kind of just launching new markets and using all our revenue to just launch new cities versus kind of the standard path of kind of like constantly raising more and more capital to diluting pretty much everyone that's building it. And we kind of didn't need to do. Once we raised that capital, it gave us enough of a war chest to just figure out our growth engine and figure out how to solve all the most critical issues in the company: trust, safety, liability. We offer $1 million of protection free of charge to all the owners. And so that helped us really unlock another level of growth and scalability. And so, right now we deal with other issues. We're now dealing with a lot of other growth problems you'll get with the new sharing economy. So we're dealing with a lot of regulation in different cities. A lot of people trying to figure out what to do with Swimply at this point. and how to regulate it. Should it be regulated? What should the regulations be? So those are kind of the issues we deal with now. But those are the kind of issues the money doesn't really solve, and so you just need, we didn't have to raise it since then.
Yeah. Would love to go into what it's been like having VC investors. What's your experience been with that?
There's obviously a lot of pros and cons. Yeah. I don't think people talk enough about the price you pay when you raise venture capital.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I think a lot of people, they'll tell you, hey, don't raise money you don't need. You know, they'll tell you about dilution and stuff like that. But dynamically, I think entrepreneurs by nature like freedom to some extent. Even though they're selling their soul to a dream and find themselves working more hours than everybody, I think they're definitely looking for like creative freedom. And when you take on VC, you're definitely putting a big sort of mode on that. And so there's like, I think for me, it definitely was, it unlocked a lot of doors for us. We're able to scale extremely fast, test out a bunch of things, create solutions you otherwise would not be able to solve for. But it definitely came with a price of like, you end up finding yourself needing a lot more consensus with people that don't understand your business at all, right? I think a lot of venture capitalists, aren't operators per se, and even if they are, they're operating from like a board level, which is like really, really high. So I think if you need the capital, you got to do it. But I think for me, where I had to do it again, I probably would focus more on either operator sort of investors, right? Like they have experience being in the business, so they're not suggesting things that may be out of touch with the actual reality, and that you have really good synergy with. We went with the highest term sheets every single time, and it made sense at the time. I was like, hey, we're doing this for capital, might as well get the best capital for the least amount of dilution. But there was definitely, I think, other partners looking back that gave us, maybe they couldn't compete term sheet wise, but would have made better long-term partners. And the reality is when you're taking on an investor, you're really getting, it sounds cliche, but you're getting married to some extent, like, because you're going to have a real intimate relationship building a company for the next foreseeable future. And you want those interactions to be really pleasurable and really value aligned. And so that's been like a much more of a priority for me as Swimply matured, as just hiring went along, like hiring a lot for synergy and vibes, to be honest. Like it sounds, but like vibes there's an ROI there to being able to like high five the people that you work with and to work well with. So that applies to employees and investors. And with every passing year, it becomes more and more of a priority for me over, resume or maybe value on paper. I definitely right now triple click into like synergy, chemistry, values, all things that I would have totally made fun of if you told me to focus on day one. People telling me to like roll out my values and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to build a company, not a religion. I'm fine. But later, over time, you realize you are building more than a company. You're building like a group of people that are going to work really hard towards something that's not real yet. And it doesn't feel like a company. It does feel, it's probably a little bit of a hybrid. A startup is probably a little bit in between a company and a religion at first. And so I think you realize that more and more as you build your company. It's not just a product, it's like a community to some extent, at the very least. And so that's something that's been more and more important over time.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who's in the process of trying to raise capital right now? And then my second question is, if you were to give advice to VCs, what would you tell them?
For founders, my first one literally would be, are you sure? Like, is this what, like, you've looked up to founders that just raised a lot of money and like you think that's what success looks like? I can tell you a lot of those founders regret it.
Regret the
fundraising.
Company or
fundraising entirely.
Fundraising.
Like, hey, this could have been a really cool company that you controlled and you were a lot smarter for a lot longer with.
And they regret it because they feel as if they're getting pushed in a direction that they don't necessarily want to go.
Well, they regret it, I think, for two reasons. One, like you raise enough money, you'll become an employee at your own company, right? And easily replaceable. But even if that's not the case, you're going to find yourself dealing with a lot of friction with, trying to get consensus with people that don't necessarily understand you. They don't necessarily realize that the crazy is what made this a reality, but and got it to something cool enough for them to invest. But now that they're investing, they constantly try to optimize for safety, and you may be optimizing for more risky, like the same mentality towards that. So there's a little bit of a balance there, and there's a healthy balance to that. But you'll find some people it could cause more friction. And then lastly, I think for us specifically, it also just makes you like you lose a lot of the advantages of like being a real fast startup. Like it makes you try to solve things with money instead of like with ingenuity. And so you find yourself just throwing money at the problem, hiring somebody to fix it who's a pro, and just getting like bloated really quickly. And so a lot of founders I know would have wanted to hold on to the scrappiness much longer. Once you bring on venture capitalists and you bring on, so you just have to make sure the timing is right, that you really freaking want this. And then again, my number one is if you really need this is really gonna be a massive unlock for you, then I just can't stress enough how not cliche it is to not go after the highest term sheet. Like go for the person you want to build a company with. Almost look at it like you're bringing on a co-founder, I would say. At least during the seed, Series A, even Series B, I would say. Like you're bringing on co-founders, essentially. That's how you have to look at it. You're not just bringing on a dude who's going to write a check and disappear. They may disappear if it's up and to the right, but the moment there's any sort of struggle, they'll peep over the hood, and now you have a lot of problems you have to deal with that wouldn't be there. So that would be my two. Make sure you really need it. If you do, don't lose a lot of what made you great, and then make sure the person who's enabling it financially is also the partner that you want to continue to build a company with.
Yeah. What would you look for in a partner? Like as in the ideal VC, what would you be looking for? If you were going out to market right now, like what type of
you want somebody who understands like specifically what you're building.
Yeah,
right?
You kind of mentioned that, like an operator almost.
Yeah, but I think also the space is important. That's not vital, but I think like if they have any experience seeing greatness and how great companies are built that they can lend you, that'd be nice. If they have experience in marketplaces so they understand the struggles, I would probably look for that. And then, so there's fundamentally, I think there would be some requirements if I'm going to like work with you, like and care about your opinion. I'm going to want to know that there's something that some value you can bring to the table in the conversation.
What about character? And
then I would say that's prerequisites. And then I would say that you want to make sure that they're like, you want to, a lot of people talk about the awesomeness, but the like, hey, things are great. How do you work with founders when things are great? I would have some ugly conversations, some scary conversations with them. Hey, how do you think about when companies do poorly or like didn't meet expectations or a challenge arises? How do you support founders then? And that's when you're going to get a lot of good vibes there. If you hear a lot of like rehearsed, well, like media trained answers, I would say they're full of shit to some extent. You can sometimes hear exactly how they support founders in those ways. I would spend a lot of time talking about when things are hard, how do they support you then? Because a lot of them just won't. A lot of them disappear, and that's quite binary, I think, investors. The best investors like are genuinely interested in helping founders when things are not up and to the right.
Yeah, it's almost like you can expect them to be in the trenches with you.
Exactly. So you're obviously doing the work. They're not founders. They're investors for a reason, but they have to understand things philosophically. They have to be in the trenches with you.
Yeah. I think that transitions well to actually the second question, which is what advice would you give VCs?
What advice to give VCs? I mean, I think you have to be realistic about why you're investing. I think like and what you're investing in, right? I think like I feel like a great VC would probably be a better person to giving advice to VCs than myself. But like if I could probably imagine advice I would give to VCs, I feel like, are you investing in the company or investing in the person, right? I think every VC says they're investing in the person because that's what the person wants to hear. But like, genuinely asking yourself, what are you investing in? Is it the person? Is it the company?
Yeah, it's so true because you hear them. We had VCs on this, and it's like they say, hey, we're just investing in the founders because we believe in the founders. It's like you can have a great idea, but if you don't have execution, you have nothing. And it's almost like you could have not a great idea, but you have great execution, and there actually is something there. Yeah. And so it really comes down to, the idea, but more importantly, it comes down to the person behind the idea. And do we believe in that person?
Correct. So I think later stage investors, Series C, D investors, it doesn't matter. I think
Isn't it funny that there's like all these different rounds? Like you have like, you have like a seed round,
it changes every 2 years
B, C, D, E, F, G. It's like, oh my gosh. Like,
it's
at what point are you going public or are you just going to sell this company?
Yeah, no, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
And what, the terms for what changes all the time. But I would say like figuring out what you're investing in would probably be the thing I owe most. And then also I'd probably ask the same thing. Hey, founder, you seem all pumped and excited and confident right now because things are doing well and you're raising around, and we're interested. So you're in good spirits. How do you deal with things when they're stressful? Like, do you lose your shit? Do you do you become a micromanager? Do you delegate well? Do you handle stress? Like I would focus. Like a lot of the questions I received was like, do I scale well and stuff like that, which are all just questions you can respond with jargon.
Yeah.
But questions about how do you operate in times of war, as I think we didn't get enough of that. I would probably have asked investors to
times of war. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
That's kind of would be my take at advice for some VCs.
So religion's a big part of your life.
Huge. Yeah.
So how has that impacted your leadership style?
I mean, it's been what's it called? It's been the healthiest thing for me as far as like, I'm a kind of a little bit of a lunatic operationally, and so like I'm obsessed with every small detail, and so religion has been amazing to just keep me a little bit balanced as far as like life is a little bit larger. No matter how large what your building is, life is larger, like significantly larger, and so it's kept me like focused on life too, and not just on business or outcomes or next achievements or the next round. So I think mental health wise, it's kept me really grounded. I think dealing with really stressful situations, like it's easy to, I think without religion, I wouldn't necessarily have seen so much divine intervention with like the Shark Tank airing on that day, getting invited in the first place, like being forced from my parents to cancel my traveling plans so I can be home at work, home for the summer. If that did never happened, would have never asked my neighbor to pay for the pool, would have just made that my family's problem and traveled. Probably wouldn't even known about that pool if I didn't come home that summer. So there's like, I think seeing a lot of that gives me a lot of strength when like things are not good right now. I'm like, okay, things didn't look good then, things didn't look good before then. And it definitely gives me a lot of, helps me with my confidence, with my delusional confidence, even when things look completely hopeless.
Yeah.
So
yeah, looking back on it, you can see God working in your life.
Yeah. So he was there then, he's probably here now. And so we'll figure this out.
One of the things we chatted about, which I thought was really cool, is the importance of taking a Sabbath.
Yeah.
Has that been a big part of
I would say
helping your mental?
Point blank, dude. I think a lot of my founder colleagues will ask me what I do to stay sane and stay healthy and stay balanced and grounded. And yeah, I have this obviously religious ritual every Friday night from sunset to Saturday sunset where I go completely offline. No electricity, no phone, no nothing.
And you stick to it? Stick
to it, literally religiously. And that one day just totally, first of all, it gives you a day to work towards.
Yeah.
Right. So you can be a beast and put in 150%, knowing you'll be able to have this mandatory time to breathe out. Otherwise, there's no end in sight, and you can get burnt out. And then you have that, and then you actually have that one day to just debrief, and like you spend it with your family, and we have dinner Friday night and with friends or with family, depending on where we are. And I think that you start the week from scratch. Like you finish 24 hours and you're just ready to go. And so I think a lot of people like have vacations or they go out drinking or stuff like that. And there's other maybe less healthy ways to like keep your adrenaline going and to escape. But that's a great way to, I think, restart without escaping.
Yeah.
You're actually being more present as a way to recalibrate versus escaping and then recalibrate, which I think has been absolutely iconic for me. I know a lot of people are not religious, but a day, or a week, or every other week, I think, for like just like completely disconnect, regardless of what's on fire, because it doesn't matter. Things can be completely on fire Friday afternoon. Sunset hits, I'm off my phone, and I think finding that kind of day for you to just recalibrate, be more present a little bit instead of trying to run away from it to get some space, I think would be significant. Actually is the second piece of advice I give founders as much as I can. Stay naive as long as possible, and also give yourself space, like time to work on it. And remember that life is bigger than whatever you're building. So
yeah, such good advice. Such good advice. Yeah, I think like taking a Sabbath, right? It just like it rejuvenates you, and it gives you a moment to kind of step back, turn off your phone, relax, and like get into community. And I think that's what's so cool about getting in Shabbat dinners. It's all about being around friends and family. And I think I recently just heard someone talk about this. At the end of the day, like we're here for people, and so like it's all about relationships. And I think that's really what fills people's cup, and that's what a Sabbath is all about: is taking a step back and kind of
what's it all for?
Realigning yourself, right? Like getting grounded and getting into community. Yeah. And so whether you're religious or not, I just think that like the data and the research is there that like having a day where you dedicate to just recharging or like
to life, honestly, life, to the people you love, and realizing what it's all for.
Yeah, I've been thinking more about the importance of I sometimes mispronounce this word, but sabbaticals. Did I say that right?
Sabbaticals.
It's this concept of like a pastor will preach for like a few years, and they'll just get burnt out, and they'll need some time to just completely step away and go on a trip for a few months at a time. And I just think that's like so important. Like we talk about like having a Sunday or having a Friday where you just step away. But then also like having like an extended trip where you're really stepping away from work, I think is equally important. It's something I've been thinking more about, of like your head's down for years and then just stepping away completely and then coming back in.
I think if you're going to wrap something up,
I'm not gonna say that, but
no. I'm saying like if you're, I was just saying if you're in between like chapters in your life, I think it's good to reset.
Yeah.
Right. You have that when you graduate. You know.
Oh, totally.
Junior school, high school, college, you reset, and once you're past these mandatory resets, people forget to reset. Yeah. Right. So like you go on this conveyor belt of life, but then once you're thrown into adulthood, it's like people. It'd be cool to probably look at your life in like a few year increments and being like, how did I do these past few years? What can I learn for the next part? Yeah. You can't really do that if you're still in it. So stepping out, whether it's taking a trip or just booking a Swimply for a few days.
I like how you did that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so as we wrap this up, what's next? What's next for the company? What's next for you?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, we're expanding to new categories. So we were in pools, but now we're going into sports. And we actually just launched a pet category as well. So people like that spots where you can take your pet. There's 93 million homes in America with a pet that they treat like a child. And so we've created dedicated spaces and categories on there. So we're just expanding into more kinds of spaces that people want and then more use cases that people need. And we actually just launched another version of our website called Swimply, which is a, we were talking about a little bit of religion. It's kind of Orthodox. It's like a kosher version of Swimply. Wow. There are a lot of people in the community that need a healthy place to swim that they can't swim. The women can't swim in front of men. And so they can't go to a public pool, they can't go to the beach, they can't go to the resort. And they can't even go on Swimply because there's like some of the homes you can look into. They need it completely isolated. So we launched a version of the site called Swimply, which is it's like extra private. And it's completely dedicated to like the Orthodox Jews and Muslim communities that need complete solitude. So yeah, just launching more spaces and unlocking more use cases so more people can escape locally. Yeah. So
cool, man. Well, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Well, you probably don't want to get in touch with me. You probably want to get in touch with one of our hosts on Swimply.com. And you can do that on Swimply.com or our app. And then obviously I'm on LinkedIn and always pumped to connect with other founders when they're looking for some shared war stories.
Cool. Well, thanks for being on, man. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah.